Well, let's design something, shall we? Today we're going to be talking about ethereal design. This is probably the design style that actually kind of got me into the realm of design. I found it very intriguing, very engaging, very just full of depth and color and typography. This design style is great for maybe album covers or posters, billboards, flyers. I mean, really anything. If it encompasses the kind of vibe of whatever the entity you're designing for is all about, then it kind of works hand in hand. So we're gonna look at a couple of examples, kind of talk about key components, key features of this design style, and then we're just gonna design a couple of these together, see how many that we can crank out while I guess I'm just sitting here at my desk, you know. So over in Pinterest, if I type in ethereal design, this is what comes up, and something may slightly come up different for you if you have a Pinterest account that you've been using, but typically it's gonna be close. So we're looking at stuff like this where there's a heavy emphasis, and see if I click on this, it's even closer to all the different kinds of designs here. We're looking at designs that are very heavy emphasis on typography. They're kind of gridded out, you know, either it's gonna be top and bottom or all four corners or like the bottom third. And then there's massive influence from the photography. I mean, the photograph that you use is probably the most important part. The two most important parts of this are the photograph that you use, whatever the photo, whatever the background is, and however you style it, color it, blur it, distort it, whatever, and the font that you use. Those are gonna be the two most important. So what I see here a lot are very heavily stylized serif fonts. And it's gonna be a mixture of very heavily stylized serif fonts and some script. Some of these you see some sans serif if there's a little bit cleaner, you know, like this one is a little bit cleaner. So you can use a very clean sans serif font, like maybe a Neuhaus Grotesque, maybe a Helvetica. But most often the ones that kind of jump out at me are these ones that have very heavily stylized serif fonts. This is pretty sick, very heavily grid. It's really only the bottom third that we're seeing some design going on. We've got a repeat of this photo right here and it kind of blurs in. That's pretty wild. And it's really only the bottom third that's typography. So it's very heavily gridded out. You can also see in these design examples that there are a lot of elements that are filling out dead space to basically make it feel super full. I mean, this design style is very full while really only incorporating type and colors. Maybe sometimes there's textures, sometimes there's some blur or some grain effects and whatnot, but really you can achieve mostly what you're going for with just the photo and then the typography, and then making sure whatever the color that you use for the typography meshes with the photo really well. It's probably safe to say that they chose this color of text because it was very intriguing, it was very bold, impactful, it was visible. So adding a little bit of color to your text is not a bad thing here. If you get down into the rabbit hole a little bit, you can kind of start to see some things branch into the utilitarian style, where it's kind of the same principle, but it's like a little bit even more heavily focused on grid, like filling the whole frame. And then the typography is a little cleaner, not as edgy. And then the photos are gonna be cleaner as well, and a lot less vivid and just visually captivating. So over in my Kittl project, I started this project by looking for some photos. I found more than this. I guess I had deleted them, but this is the photo that I chose. It was very visually captivating. It was kind of edgy, blurry, dark. The vibe I was going for is very heavily vibe driven. The feeling that the photo gives you, the composition of the photo, the coloring of the photo is very important here. So this one also could work here. And I think if I remember correctly, what I typed in was blurry photography. And you're gonna have to do a good amount of digging. You could even add effects and textures onto stuff to get the desired effect that you're looking for. Like that's a good photo to use just because it's very visually intriguing. The colors are really good. For example, I could put this on here, set this as the background, and boom, it's like a whole different design. So I'm just gonna leave that photo there as a reference. And we're gonna keep looking for photos down in here, visual references. Another thing that you can type in is blurry portrait. You can type in stylistic photography, you can type in creative photography, all of these things that are essentially going to give you these kind of very heavily stylized, very colorful, captivating photos, which is 100% a requirement when doing this design style. You don't really want your subject to be sharp and clear, because all the sharpness and clarity is really going to be coming from your text, and the sharper the image is, the less readable the text is. So you're going with contrast from the background to the foreground, background being the photo and the foreground is the text. You want contrast between the clarity of those two things, not just the color. So the reason that this text looks so sharp is because the background is pretty blurry. So enough yapping, I think it's time to just design something. One thing I wanted to point out is that you kind of want to like stray away from very, very light parts of photos. Like the general area of this photo is pretty dark, but there are these very white parts that is basically going to be very difficult for you to put text there unless the text is very harshly colored, and it's just going to work against you. So this one might not be too difficult. That one would be a little harder because all of these like lasers are creating very bright light. That one would be easy. This one would be mostly easy because the light is not like true white. It is a very light yellow, but this one definitely would be super difficult. Basically, just to show you, I'll put this on here and it's just way harder to see what's going on here. And it doesn't have the same visual impact as the other photo that I chose. So I think I'm gonna use this photo right here, and I'm going to copy my artboard over and basically just give myself a clean slate. Can get rid of all of these other photos. Those were just to kind of give you an idea. And I can get rid of all of these elements. These were just little stars from the elements panel. And then breaking this apart, you can kind of see how like the typography is just kind of like random, maybe, I guess. So you basically just space things out where it looks good and move text around until you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's cool. I don't really have a problem with it. Also, I didn't just right click and use this as the background because I wanted to specifically frame it this way. So same with this photo, if I went and I used this as the background, I'm stuck to it being framed that way. So I'm going to release that and do this so I can frame the photo a little bit different. I think I want to do like a little bit off center like that. So now that we have our nice photo background, there are some adjustments maybe you could make to the photo. I typically wouldn't make color adjustments until I've got some text on there, so that I can kind of like understand what text color I'm going for or what background color. You can, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do this. You can play with the hue slider and get some really, really cool colors. That's why having these like blurry photographs that are very heavily stylized are so good for this style, because you can make them whatever hue, and because the photography is very stylistic, it doesn't like make people's like skin tones off-putting or anything. It's just a very heavily stylized form of photography that you can push the hue really in any direction. So I quite like this kind of green and pink, almost watermelon looking combination. It's pretty cool. So now we're gonna move on to typography, which is, like I said, a massive part of this. This font right here is called Stamco. It's just super stylized serif font. I 100% would use this also for this second poster, but I want to try to find another font, and we can look at a couple of different fonts together that would work. This script T right here is the font Ballet, and then these other little bits and pieces of words is just New Haas Grotesque. And so scrolling through the examples at the beginning of the video, you could probably see that the main large portions of text were serif, and then all of the smaller tiny little bits and pieces that were just filling up space were sans serif. Very, very clean, minimal fonts, easy to read at small sizes. And so that's probably what you're gonna wanna go for. So let's open up our fonts panel and go to serif and just start looking at a couple of different options. Right off the bat, that one's pretty cool. I like the way that it does that little character inside the O. That one's a nice font as well. A lot of the ones that look really good are pretty thin fonts. That's a very nice font as well. Maybe a little bit on the thicker side. This is also a sick font. If I don't find one that I like better, then I'll probably go for this. But you can probably start to see a little bit of a trend where they have just random ligatures connecting letters together and stuff inside the O's of the font. Like this would be another one. That one looks really, really nice and clean. It's almost like they kind of slightly look Gothic in a way. It's basically like a serif font with like a Gothic influence of the way that like the ligatures and the cuts of the letters go together. That one's a very nice font. This is also nice as well. I mean, we just have a ton. It's honestly pretty difficult to choose. I like this one, and I think I like it because of the way that the connections, like in the A and in the E, this like curve down looks almost kind of like webby, and it's almost like kind of a spidery look that meshes well with this green. So I'm gonna use this font. And I'm just gonna play around with some text, maybe a couple of different words. And you can see the way that fonts kind of interact with the canvas dependent upon like the shapes of the letters, what letters are in the words, how many letters are in the words. So then by default, how large does it have to be height-wise to fill the whole canvas left to right? See, if I want to use a word like this and have it fill the whole canvas left to right, it gets pretty tall. So I don't actually know if I want it to fill that much of the canvas. I have also seen people do stuff where they'll have like something up top and then maybe something in the bottom left and then fill it out with elements on the right. And honestly, with this design style, there's a lot of just like sitting and looking at it.
I like to do my best sitting and thinking here
until you have an idea that you want to run with. I actually like the way that this word looks up top and the way that it interacts with the photo a little bit. I really love this A, how this, you know, the connection of an F to an A is pretty tough because the way that the F comes over and then the bottom of the stem of the A is like over here, but then it has to go up at an angle. So there's all this like weird white space. You could copy this text down and just make it like way smaller. Maybe start working on a text element down here. Maybe if we put this back down, put this up top. Like I said, just a lot of experimentation. Another helpful thing that you can do is pull some guides over. So I can turn my rulers and my guides on. You know, there's also grids if you want to, you know, size that down per artboard, you can do that. But I'm just gonna pull some very general grid lines over. And you get pretty good at eyeing these, knowing if it's where it's supposed to be or not. So already having that grid is very helpful in knowing that these two fonts match up and I'm not going outside of like my zone, you know? Looking at scripts, honestly, I feel like this design style, like you have a lot easier time finding scripts because even the scripts that I like kind of would consider like kind of ugly look good with this design style for some reason. Like never in a million years would I actually use that script font, but that F actually looks pretty cool. Yeah, I wouldn't use that font either, but the character looks cool on its own. We're kind of looking for a script that like matches the weight and ornateness, if that's a word, of the font that we're using. I actually quite like this. That one's not as good. I like this just because it's very like foofy, like very flamboyant in a way. And another aspect of this design style is that like readability is like kind of important, but not as important as it like looking cool. And so yeah, this design style is definitely like don't sacrifice coolness for readability. If you can do both, do both. So here I'm just trying to make sure that this kind of like connects together. So when I was positioning this T over here, I was trying to avoid like random gaps where it would just show tiny pixels like cut through the fonts where the connections are, and it just feels kind of awkward. But with these blank spaces, it feels more justified. So with this one, is like, oh, I could just connect that together, you know, and then it actually feels like one flowing block of text, you know? I think it's time for some elements. I know that stars are very, very good for this design style. I actually don't know if you know this or not, but you can expand this left panel to show you more elements at a time. So that's really, really helpful. Particularly these like sharper stars are very good. And so I may be looking for something to kind of like balance out this dead space here. So I might try something like this, turn it around and put it right there so that like that area of the canvas is kind of filled in so it's not as dead, quite literally. That's actually quite a cool concept, is putting the stars like on the ligature of the F. Gives it kind of like a gothic feel. So I wonder if I like copied this, turn it around, and then put it on the other side of this F, if that would do anything. Actually looks pretty sick. This is kind of like a, oh, it looks cool, do it. You know, just roll with it until you get to the end, and if you don't like it, then you can just delete it. I think that this element is kind of cool. Yeah, maybe we'll make that like way smaller and then can add some like little accent text here. I love New Haas Grotesque for this design style. It's just so good. Very, very clean. It's the perfect weight. Ooey. And typically in all caps, probably. So I think I'm going to break this up. Left justify that, make it quite a bit smaller. Let's just bring this up here. Yeah, it's gonna need to be a lot smaller. Basically the same height as that element. Also, I didn't know this until like yesterday, but if you hold shift and use your arrow keys, it moves like way further distance per movement. And so it's like way faster. I like literally did not know that. Matthew has returned, our editor that makes all the funny little things in the videos that you guys love and consistently makes fun of me and Drew.
And I get paid to do it too.
So I'm just gonna copy this text box over, if I can grab it, and try to space this out. Never, and then we'll right justify this guy. Seen your face. Very cool. So if I grab these guys, group them, since they're right and left justified, and put them right there, it will center them. And if I do the same with these guys, it'll center them as well. And so it'll be nice and spaced out, you know? I wonder if I'm actually gonna lock this. I've been asking for a command to lock elements, and or the ability to lock to be in the toolbar right here. So it's just like either I click something to lock it or like click a button, like click, boom, lock, instead of right click, find the, come on. You guys gotta help me out. Please comment and ask for a lock feature. I liked moving it up, but not quite that much. I might split the difference, something like that. Now is the time to get like pretty experimental. So you could like copy and paste this down. And I'm gonna make sure that these are spaced out evenly by using my tidy tool. And you might see kind of what I'm doing here is like building a little bit of like a ladder where it goes up and around. So I'm literally telling you it's random. It is designing aimlessly until what you're working on becomes the coolest thing that it can be, and then just stopping. That is quite literally what we were doing. Yeah, I think that looks nice, kind of spaced out like that. Are these definitely not equidistant? Are these? Okay, that's better. That's looking more better. I might actually copy this down here and put that like in the C. That might be kind of cool. Maybe. Size it up some. I don't like it. Just heavy experimentation time. It's almost like you're trying to add as much as you possibly can before it gets too crowded. This design style is like truly knowing where the line is. You're trying to find how far you can push the line of putting cool things on the artboard until it doesn't look good anymore. I liked that smaller for sure. I wonder if I take this and put the whole phrase maybe like halfway down, split the difference there, put it on either side. So I'm kind of like building a grid a little bit. If I copy and paste this over, maybe right justify that, group those, center it. Drew has returned. Yeah. And I don't know how I feel about it. So I'm gonna move this down. I think I like that better. Did you hear my stomach? Wait, that was the weirdest sound. That's pretty cool. I like that. So we have like two blocks separated by like this diamond thing. Don't even know what to call it. Just an element, just elements. That's all it is. I think I like three. 3 looks nice. The wisdom is truthfully knowing when to call it. When have I reached the point where I can no longer add anything else without it starting to look like too much. I want to play around with the color of this photo again. Oh, that's pretty sick. Honestly, all of them are cool, like all of the different colors. I like darkening it a little bit, adding a little bit of noise. See if I blur it some, but I still want to know it's a person, you know? Would I rather have blur or noise? Yes. Just gonna add a little bit of grain. I'm gonna show you how to add a glow to basically everything all at once. So I'm just gonna do the first text shading option right here. Make sure that the offset is down, and I'm gonna adjust my blur so that it's just like kind of ever so slight. I'm going to right click, copy, style, copy shadow, sorry, not style, because style would be like border, color, everything. Copy shadow, then if I lock my photo, I can gather, get all my text here, that, and this, and I should be able to, I'm scared, it did do it. Not to the F, I guess I didn't grab it. Now that is glowing as well. Oh, it does it to elements too, so it doesn't need to be a different style. You can do it to elements as well. So I could have technically just grabbed everything. Paste style, and my advice would be for stuff that's a lot smaller, I would honestly back off that blur some. Because it doesn't look as glowy because it's like smaller. So if I do this, it just kind of looks like a white drop shadow instead of a blur. So I need to back that off so it actually looks neon. So I'm gonna copy shadow, select these guys, and apply that style to those as well as these. That makes it a lot nicer, I think. I'm going to apply that same style to these as well. Must have been an offset on the one that I copied. And then this guy, I'm gonna back off a little bit, and maybe on this as well. And you know what, I'll do it to this one as well, so that it just looks a little bit more neon-y. Now, I'm gonna tell you the real hack, just such a random thing that like nobody would ever teach you to do, is just selecting all of the text and elements that are glowy and just hitting duplicate to make the glow more intense. And so basically the opacity of that glow is now like sitting on top of each other. And so it's catching more of that light. And I mean, technically you could even do it again if you wanted to. It just depends on how many layers you want to clog your file up with. You could do it like that. But now it's becoming a little bit too much, I think. So I think backing it off one and just duplicating it once would be nice. Texture. I am going to add a texture to this. Currently all of our textures are white background textures. Well, not all of them. Some of the plastic textures are black background textures. Maybe some of the fabric ones. So I'm going to add this, and we're gonna play around with the different blending modes. I think that one has a little bit too big of a little white gap in it. Also, if you're not finding the texture that you want, you can go to images and type in texture. And there's also quite a few that you'll be able to find in here. You just might have to do some digging. Like this is actually pretty cool, like kind of a glue paper texture, which I am not normally a massive fan of, but for some reason I wanna try it on this. So I actually really enjoy that. I think that's very nice, and I'm gonna call it finished. I think that is my design. I think that is sick. Drew, come look at this.
Yeah, I love it.
I just wanna design all day.
I like the first one you did better, but I do like this.
Why do you like this one better?
The color and like the clear subject of the lady in the back. Oh, I mean, I like both of them. I like the glowiness of this guy. It's just cool.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. That is the Ethereal design style. Heavy emphasis on fonts. Make sure that you're trying to prioritize some very stylistic serif fonts, as well as combining those with some scripts, using some small elements like some very small font sans serif like New Haas Grotesques, stuff that's like very readable when you make it very small, and then like some stars and some gothic looking things as well. Heavy emphasis on photo, and specifically photo color and composition. You want things that are like a little bit more blurry, a little more hazy, so they look very stylistic. And so when you add text on top of them, it's just kind of like elevating the photo versus like trying to make the photo look cool with text. Like the photo's already cool, it doesn't need the text to look cool. So you're adding the text to elevate the entirety of it together. Well, it's time for you to cast your vote. Cast your vote between these two, this one being the first one and then the second one, which I designed live with you guys. So head to the comment section and tell me one or two between these two different design styles. Make sure to like this video as well. If you're gonna leave a comment, you might as well like the video. I don't understand why you would leave a comment and not like the video as well. They kind of go hand in hand, and it helps us out a lot. If you're gonna comment and like like the video, you might as well subscribe, because I mean, if you're gonna comment and like the video, you might as well subscribe. And if you don't do that, that doesn't make any sense, and it helps us out a lot. Also, let us know if you want to see more of these. I would totally be down to just do a very, very long, extended design video of just this design style, like multiple of these in row in just one big block video. So if that's something that you guys are interested or would find entertaining, comment so we can make it and we can try it out. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.